In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can build a rack which enables you to generate punch-in effects. It's particularly good if you have some kind of controller like push or any other controller. I'll be using the mouse here, it's not so fluid, but you can have more fun with a proper controller. Now, I'm just going to really show you the principle and what effects I have here and how to build the rack I have here with the effects I have. Of course, you can use any effects you want and you can set up the effects in any manner you want. But as I say, it's just the principle of how you would set up these kind of punch-in effects. So we'll just have a quick listen, then I'll show you how the rack works and, as always, how you can put this rack together yourselves. As I mentioned in the intro, the rack I'm going to build today isn't limited to the effects I have here. I can just open up the rack very quickly and show you. We have a whole series of effects in here. We have a shifter, which is only available in some of the higher versions of Ableton. It's not available in intro, but you could drop that out and put something else in. Beat, repeat, redux, saturator. So all of these things you can pick and choose. You can pick and choose how you set them up. I'll just give you the example I've used in this rack effectively. One of the principles is that we have these kind of effects here like shifter, beat, repeat, redux, which is a bit reduction, a saturator, and then things like phaser, flanger. I have a specific order you can see here. So we kind of affect the tone here, saturate it, degrade it, whatever, and then we put it through some of the stereo effects like phaser, auto pan, delay, reverb, and then finally into an auto filter here, which is set up just purely for a high pass. Switch it on, I've just got high pass, nothing more. This doesn't do anything, it's literally on and off here, and that's the same for most of these controls. The reverb, on, it doesn't change as you move it around, it's just the way that Ableton allows you to set up macros. I can put it on 1 and it's on, and anything after that is just on. So yeah, so these are set up to allow you to perform, at least in some manner, and you could choose how you drop, what effects you use. But we'll just go through the rack very quickly and what's actually going on here. So I have these controls here. I have the possibility to add, here's our beat repeat, we'll look at that first. Close this. I have the possibility to add, turn on the beat repeat. And what I'm doing here, this is one of the few controls which has multiple positions, and you can see that it's actually changing this variation here if I move this round. And what this beat frequency does is moves the filter. So this defines what frequency the beat will repeat at. Down at the bottom, we're repeating, perhaps we'll go to something a bit more. Let's do a drum loop. You can hear that a bit better. So you can hear, if I move this up, we're only repeating the higher frequencies. You can see it's been filtered here, 11 kilohertz. So only the higher frequencies are coming through, and as I pull this down, I'm going through so this one you can manipulate. With this one, just chuck it to a new position. Get these effects, different variation here, as I said, and this has been set up in this manner with these values, and they don't change. I'm literally just going through the variations and the frequencies which they're affecting. So that's the first one, that's the beat repeat. Then we have the possibility to introduce a delay. Close this one, which I have here. Again, this is off until I turn it on. Once it's on, then I have these settings. I can then do my beat repeat and have that affected by delay. Then we have, after the delay, we have a reverb. We'll keep that on. Again, literally just turns it on. And I've set up the reverb with these settings here. Turn it off, turn it on. And then I showed you before, we have the high pass filter here at the very end of the rack, or effect the end of the rack where we affect things. Then we start getting to compressors and limiters, but these are the effects that affect the tone more dramatically. And this one here is just literally turn it on. It's a high pass filter set at this frequency here, 300 Hertz. So you have a way to just filter things out quickly and turn them off. And then we have here, let's turn this off. We have a phaser here. It's the next effect I've used in the rack, which is somewhere here. And this one just has a small amount of phase, very slow, just to move the signal very, very slowly. And this, combined with these other effects, also gives you some interesting effects. Finally, on the upper row here, I'm using the auto pan tremolo. Close that one. And this one just adds some random pan. You can see here I've set it to a random, and the pan is jumping around. Oh, sorry. So these are just ideas. I sat down and thought, how can I do this? What effects were useful? And these are the ones I came up with. Okay, we'll move on a little bit. Then I'll turn the pan off. The next ones are a little bit simpler. We just have drive. This activates the drive here on the saturator. So it's again on off. Then we have some bit crushing here with the redux. It's the next one here. So we can make it 8-bit down to 12 kilohertz. Give a sort of grungy, crunchy feel to the tone. And then the final one I used here was the shifter here, which isn't available in all versions of Ableton. I'm not sure if you have to have standard. You can get it in the suite, but you'd have to look for standard, I'm not sure. And this one here has different types of pitch shifting. This one has 3 positions. So if I'm in the first position here, I can affect, if I turn it on, that just turns it on. This one here selects the mode. So here we're in coarse tuning. I can't affect this one's fixed. But if I go to the second position, then we have the frequency here. I can, with this dial, move the frequency around. And in the final position, we go to ring modulation. I can ring modulate the signal. Okay, and then at the very back of the rack, I've got a way of adjusting the level. And then finally, we have here a compressor set up in this manner. I can compress the signal. Put all these things on and just mess around. Okay, there's not really much more to say. The principle of the rack is, let's just turn these off for a second then. Maybe we go to, let's go to the cello. Which you can really mess up. If I turn the rack off. Yeah, so the principle of the rack is effectively that we have the possibility just to turn these on and off. And I've done this through the mapping here. We'll look at that when we put it together. There's not a lot of mapping. It's really just dropping the effects in, a little bit of mapping here, and the main one being that we have this device on function here. If you look at the reverb, so it activates at 1. So as soon as the reverb gets to 1, the reverb is on. 0 it's off, 1 it's on, and anything between 1 and 127 it's always on. So that's how I've managed to get this method of just activating these things very quickly. And as I say, it's better from some kind of control surface than what it is obviously from a mouse. Okay, let's have a look how it's put together, and we'll go through the principle of everything and how you can build this rack in particular yourselves. Okay, so the first effect thing you're going to need is the audio effect rack. You find that here, audio effects, audio effect rack. Just drop it onto a channel. You can open it up here with this icon. I've kept my original rack with the names. If you right click here, you can rename them. You can rename the rack. You can also rename the macros here as well, so you can do all these things. I'm going to keep my names and open this up. We'll need 14, 7 on top, 7 on bottom, 14 of the macros. So we'll go through, we'll drop in the effects, and then we'll set them up, and finally we'll do the mapping to get the rack to work. The first one I had then was shifter. Just drop that in. So this one isn't available in all Ableton Live versions. You don't have to use it. You could find an alternative or just leave it out. It's up to you. Next one is the beat repeat. Let's drop that in here. We'll close this. Beat repeat we've got in. Then we have, after the beat repeat, we have the redux, which is here. Drop that on the end. The redux is followed by the saturator here. Then we have the phaser flanger here. We'll close that as well. Then the next one after that was the auto pan tremolo here. Then after that we have delay and reverb. Delay. Reverb here. And finally the compressor, and at the very end of the rack I have a limiter. So let's put that in there as well. Okay, so that's all the effects in. We can, I guess we'll start at the beginning. We'll start with the shifter and set up the shifter. Okay, so on this one here I changed the tone to 12,000, 12 kilohertz, and we will go through the various different models here when we do the mapping. But as I say, that was the main change I made here. I just dropped this down to 12 kilohertz for the shifter. The next one we can set up then is the beat repeat. This has a few more settings. I set this to 1/8 here. The grid I left at 1/16. The variation we will map. The filter I activated, and I set this here to a window of 2.5. Slightly smaller window here. The chance we will map, the gate I didn't alter, and I changed this to insert, which means that the whole signal will be cut and we'll just get the glitch. If you had it on mix, you'd get a combination of both, but I had it on insert. Okay, we can close that one. Then we have the redux. This one I dropped down to 12,000 and 8-bit here. That one's done as well, 12,008. We have the saturator. Now on this one I set the drive to 8, I'll actually type it in, and I set the output to -8 to compensate. And the color amount here I had activated. I set this to 3%, just a very low amount. And no clip. That one's done. Then we have the phaser flanger, and I left this at 2 notches. I set the center to 1000, 1 kilohertz. The spread to 100. The amount I set to 30%. The feedback to 10. And the warmth to 50. That's everything set up there. Then we have the AutoPan tremolo. This one I adjusted the amount to 25%. The frequency to 0.5, quite slow, 0.5. The shape I didn't adjust, but I chose here this random LFO, if you like, and that's hopping about now. Then after that we have the delay, which I set to 2 here, so 2/16. The feedback I put at 35%. The filter frequency I had at 1500, here 1.5. Then I had this at 30% for dry wet. Okay, so we can close that one as well. The reverb had a few settings. I activated the low pass filter here and I set this at 250, so I drag that down, set that to 250. I changed the reflex to -1 and the defuse to -1 as well. The dry wet I set at 30%. The density I set to mid, and the decay time to 2 seconds. Well, that should be 2000 then, 2000. Size I set to 120. Okay, and the pre-delay, I had quite a long pre-delay, 20 milliseconds, to try and get the thud of drums and things. Okay, so that's all set up as well. We can close that one. Finally, the compressor. The compressor, oh sorry, the auto filter. I've missed the auto filter. We've forgotten the auto filter. Let me put that in, sorry. We need to get an auto filter in here and just drop that after the reverb and between the compressor. Sorry, forgot that one. This I set here to, we can even set it to high pass. I had it on morph. We'll put a high pass in. I had this at 300 hertz, and I didn't make any drive settings, just a basic high pass. Okay, so we can close that one. Yeah, back to the compressor. I set the makeup to automatic, so it would automatically make up for the threshold reduction, which we'll map later. I set the ratio here to 3:1. Just drop that down. That's 3:1. This I set to 2 milliseconds. And the release I left at 30. I didn't adjust knee or anything. Okay, so those were the settings here. And the limiter, there's nothing to do on the limiter. Just put the soft clip on if you like. I had that activated. Okay, so that's everything in. Now we'll just go through and map these. We'll start with the shifter and we'll just map these very quickly to the rack. We'll start with the shifter. So let's map this one first then. So the first one I have is this little button up here. That's the on-off, which I map here. Then I had the pitch mode, which we can find is this box here. And I map that there. And then the pitch range, what I did was, if we go through the modes here, you'll see that it changes. We're going to start with we'll come out of here, we'll start with pitch. So I set this to 12. Then we go here to the pitch mode and we just rotate this until we get to frequency, and then we have to map this course dial here to our pitch range here, and then we move this dial, continue moving this dial until we get to ring mod, and then we have to map this course dial here also to the pitch range. So that's everything mapped for the shifter, so we can close that now. We go to the beat repeat. Here I mapped the filter frequency here to what I call the beat frequency here. I also had this device on here, this little button, map that to the beat repeat. Hi, it's me from the future. I'm just punching in the values myself, and I've noticed I made a mistake. This variation here has to be mapped to the beat repeat. And also the chant here. This was also mapped to the beat repeat. Now we can move on to the next one, which is the redux. Here I just mapped the on-off here, and I call that crush. That one's done. The saturator, again I just mapped the on-off to the drive here. That one's done. The phaser flanger, once again on-off to here. The auto pan, same thing, on-off here. The delay, again, on-off. The reverb, on-off. The auto filter, also on-off. The compressor, yes, no, we have to do some mapping actually on the compressor. So there's a few things we need to map on the compressor here. We need to map this threshold here to the compressor here. We don't do the on-off on this one. Okay, and then finally we have the limiter, and we map the input here to the level here. So I'll just check, but I think that's everything. So there are some constraint values that have to go in here. Now I'll put up a screenshot, there's not so many, and punch those in, and then we'll come together afterwards and test the rack, make sure everything's okay. Okay, then once you've got them punched in, it should be okay. As I say, I made a mistake here with the variation. I clicked on the wrong one. Just make sure that's okay. Now we can test the rack. Just make sure this was reset to 1/8 for here. We can come out. This was 1/8. That should be set to here. Okay, so we'll close that. Let's try with the beats. See what happens. Yeah. Before we get into that, actually, I can just say you click here, you save your rack, and that'll be in your user library, presets, audio effects rack. You'll find it in here. You can drop it into other projects. The variations here, if you get a set of combinations you like for your settings, just create a new snapshot here, press new here. You would then have to resave the rack again, otherwise the snapshots would be lost. They have to be saved with the rack. Okay, so yeah, as I said, let's try this, see if it works. We've got something going on. I'll just go back to the bass. So we have the beat repeat. That seems to be working. Try the delay. We have delay, reverb, high pass. Try the phaser and the panning. Seems okay. Look at the drive. Yep, that's okay as well. Level works. compressor. And then let's just have a look at the crush. That's okay. Okay, so the last one is this shifter here. So we can turn it on. Change the mode. And this is the coarse tuning. Now, as I said, I didn't attach this to this. You could if you wanted to, but I just left it on a fixed value of 12 semitones. You could have mapped this to this controller here and then adjust the semitones if you wanted to. Okay. Well, it seems everything's working. Hope this video has been useful as always. Have fun, make some music, enjoy the rest of the day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Thank you.